So since the departure of Klay Thompson, there has been a lot of questions about who will be the starting 2 guard alongside Steph Curry in the backcourt this season. And the answers have been mixed. Some want Pods to be the starter, some suggested that Buddy Hield would be a good fit, most want Moses Moody to finally take that next big step in his career. However, the answer to me is clear, and it's De'Anthony Melton, not anybody else, and here's why. De'Anthony Melton was a big time pickup for the Warriors in many ways. It's obvious that one of the things that the Warriors most desire is a consistent secondary scoring option. While Melton isn't exactly known for being a shot creator, he's the closest person out of the 4 players that I mentioned earlier who can fulfill that role to an extent at the guard position without giving up a significant cost. Remember that. Throughout the preseason, Melton has done a great job of creating quality shots for himself as a ball handler off of ball screens and dribble handoffs. He comes off of pick and rolls with a ton of pop and steam to get downhill and put pressure on the defense. If the screener's defender drops too far, he can comfortably shoot a 1 or 2 dribble pull-up. If he gets into the lane and he doesn't have a scoring opportunity, he can play off 2 and use his footwork and balance to generate a shot. He can play off the ball as well. The point is that De'Anthony Melton is a very polished player offensively. He usually doesn't rush too many decisions because he's patient whenever he makes his move. If a scoring or a passing opportunity isn't open, instead of forcing it, he'll take his time to try to create openings and advantages. He's also a decent playmaker whenever he's able to get the defense in rotation, either through dribble penetration or ball screens. The 3 ball is looking very good as well, as he's able to knock him down in any situation. And just 2 seasons ago, he was shooting at a high percentage on catch and shoot threes. He can do it on the move as well, he can do it off pull-ups, in transition, etc. It looks like he's very comfortable taking them with confidence. Overall, he looks like a very established player that belongs within the Warriors system. This is something that all 3 other guys don't have. Pods has shown noticeable improvements when operating off of ball screens as a playmaker, but in terms of scoring and forcing the defense to respect his scoring ability, that seems to still be a work in progress. Buddy Hield has had some moments of shot creation here and there during the preseason, but it's clear that his natural role on the team is to play off the ball and work as a spot-up shooter. In that way, he won't have to expend so much energy creating on the ball and having to fly off screens with a ton of force to get a shot over the defense. Moses Moody is somebody that Warrior fans are pretty much begging for him to be in the starting lineup, but it's likely not going to happen. Moody is still too raw on the ball to be a starting caliber player. He's a young player, he doesn't have the same athletic pop in his drives, the same way that De'Anthony Melton does. He's not nearly as great of a pull-up shooter as he is as a spot-up shooter. Moody is much better off the ball when he's coming off of pin downs, down screens, and back cuts. Pairing him with Pods in the second unit, I think he'll be just fine. The Warriors have severely lacked athletic and defensive presence at the guard position post the Klay Thompson injury. In the last 2 seasons, whenever the Warriors were met with a matchup against a dominant scoring guard, they were forced to place Andrew Wiggins as the primary POA defender on that guard. However, that would put Steph and Klay in a tough position to guard physically bigger players at the 2, 3, or 4 and get physically outmatched, as Klay was nowhere near as good as he was defensively. De'Anthony Melton is a solid 2-way player who can do all of the things that I had mentioned earlier offensively, but also guard the other player's best guard defensively. Melton is a great athlete and a good shot blocking guard. He actually guarded Steph in the 22 playoffs when the Warriors played the Memphis Grizzlies, and he blocked a shot twice and made it very hard for Steph to score whenever he matched up against him. He can contain drives with his perimeter foot speed, beat offensive players off their spots, and force them to take circular driving angles towards the basket. This helps to keep the Warriors defense intact because the help doesn't have to fully commit to helping. Instead, they can just dig down and stay home on shooters. He's very good at navigating ball screens and blowing up DHOs. He has a very good ability to get skinny and knife over the top of ball screens in order to stay on the ball handler's hip or work his way back in front. He can stay attached to his matchup on DHOs and take great routes around screens to recover back in position. That is huge because Klay Thompson for the last 2 seasons is very bad at navigating ball screens and defending off-ball actions. Melton is also very disruptive in all areas of defense. Off-ball screens, he can time steals, back tap the ball, dig in the gaps, poke the ball away in the back line, and strip the ball as the offensive player starts a shooting motion. Again, game changer because the Warriors lack size. If teams establish position underneath the rim and get the ball up to their set point, you're not going to be able to bother the shot. So making plays on the ball and then scoring out in transition is going to be something that Melton can certainly add to the table. Again, this is something that all 3 other players don't have. Pods is not a great POA defender and not physically big enough to bother any elite scoring guard. Buddy Hield falls under the same category as well. Moody does have great size, being 6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan, and he does have great defensive potential, but other than having active hands and being able to contest certain shots, Moody's defense is still a work in progress. He has a ton of trouble defending off-ball actions and tends to get big around ball screens. His post defense is not promising, he's not a great shot blocking player, and his perimeter foot speed to contain the ball is still left to be desired. This is why I mentioned earlier that Melton is the best option without sacrificing anything, because he can provide just enough on both ends of the floor to generate stability for Steph to do his thing, and for Wiggins to potentially return to his best form and be the second option. And I just think he pairs well with the starters on the team in the starting lineup. Because of his athleticism, spacing, and defensive skill, you can pair him up with any other player and produce great results on both ends. Offensively, he's one more guy that you can't help off of. That's going to solve some spacing issues for the Warriors with Draymond at the 5, or if he's playing with another 5-man. And his rim pressure is going to generate shot opportunities for other players, like Wiggs if he can go back to being a high-level catch-and-shoot player. TJD can get good lob attempts at the rim. Kuminga, who has been shooting the ball well during preseason, can get good looks. And even Steph can get some easy looks as well. Defensively, I think he and Draymond defending ball screens would work very well. Or if Melton is guarding a ball screen with another 5-man, Draymond can go back to being at his best, which is being a backside defender. Wiggins wouldn't have too much pressure always defending guards, and Melton can sink and fill for TJD whenever he decides to protect the rim. So here's the thing, I'm not saying that Melton is always going to start, because there's going to be games where he has to sit out due to his health, or maybe we're playing against a team where the matchup is right for a guy like Moses Moody to start, or the lineup that was played against the Lakers that included Steph, Wiggs, Kuminga, Draymond, and TJD looks very promising and can very well be the starting lineup, as that group looked great together. All I'm saying is that if you're going to pick anybody out of the 4 players that I've been mentioning to be the first experiment in the Warriors shooting guard position, you have to go with Melton first before you go with anybody else. He's looked very good in preseason, and with him starting, you're likely going to get a lot of much needed stability on the court on both ends of the floor.